September 29th, 1982, Adams County, Illinois. A 12-year-old girl named Mary Kellerman wakes with a sore throat and takes one capsule of extra-strength Tylenol before school. Within hours, she is dead. Her family has no idea why, and paramedics who respond to the call find no obvious cause, no injury, no warning sign. That same morning, in nearby Arlington Heights, a young postal worker named Adam Janus collapses in his kitchen after taking a Tylenol capsule of his own. He is rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead by early afternoon. His death recorded at first as a sudden, unexplained cardiac event. His brother Stanley and sister-in-law Teresa gather at the family home to grieve, and both take Tylenol capsules from the same bottle for headaches brought on by shock. Within the day, they too are dead, collapsing within minutes of each other, in the same house where they had come together to mourn. Paramedics and doctors are baffled because nothing about the deaths fits a known illness, and 3 members of one family dying within hours defies any ordinary medical explanation. Then, a Chicago firefighter, off-duty and following the emerging news reports, makes a connection no one else has. Every victim had taken Tylenol. He calls it in. Investigators pull the surviving capsules from the Janus home and rush them to a lab for emergency testing. What they find changes the case entirely. The capsules have been laced with potassium cyanide, a poison so fast-acting that death can occur within minutes of ingestion. By the end of the week, 3 more victims are identified: Mary Reiner, Paula Prince, and Mary McFarland, each from a different corner of the Chicago area, each linked only by the same red and white bottle sitting in their medicine cabinet. 7 people are dead in total, and none of them knew each other, had ever met, or shared any connection beyond the product they had both trusted and never suspected. Investigators quickly determined the poisonings did not happen at the factory. Testing shows the tainted bottles came from different manufacturing lots, produced months apart in separate plants, which rules out contamination during production. Because of this, authorities conclude someone bought bottles off store shelves, opened them, laced select capsules with cyanide, resealed the packaging by hand, and returned them to shelves in at least 6 different stores across the Chicago suburbs, undetected by any employee or customer. Panic spreads nationwide within days. Johnson & Johnson, the maker of Tylenol, pulls an estimated 31 million bottles from shelves in one of the largest product recalls in American history, at a cost of over $100 million. Poison control centers report a surge of copycat tampering scares in products far beyond Tylenol, from eye drops to candy, as fear spreads faster than any single investigation can contain it. In response, the company introduces a triple-sealed, tamper-evident bottle, a packaging standard the entire industry adopts within a year, permanently changing how medicine is sold in America. Congress later passes a federal law making product tampering a crime, closing a gap that had let the case slip through the legal system for months. Then, weeks into the investigation, a letter arrives addressed to Johnson & Johnson. The writer takes credit for the killings and demands $1 million to make them stop, a claim investigators cannot immediately verify but cannot afford to ignore. Investigators trace the letter to a man named James Lewis, a tax accountant with a history of fraud and a documented grudge against a former employer. Lewis is arrested, tried and convicted of extortion, but he is never charged with the murders themselves because the physical evidence never places him in Chicago at the time of the poisonings. He insists he only saw an opportunity to profit from a crime he did not commit. And for decades he maintains that position through appeals, interviews, and a self-published account of his own innocence. He is released after serving 12 years and moves through a string of addresses and jobs, always trailed by the case that made his name known nationwide. For decades, investigators revisit the file, testing new forensic methods against the surviving evidence and re-interviewing witnesses from 1982 as techniques improve. But no new suspect ever emerges with enough evidence to charge. The file never closes. Search warrants are executed against Lewis's home as recently as 2009, yielding nothing conclusive, and detectives who worked the case retire without an arrest to show for it. James Lewis dies in July of 2023, having never been charged with the poisonings, taking whatever he knew or didn't know to his grave. The identity of the person who opened those capsules on a Chicago store shelf in the fall of 1982 has never been confirmed, and the case remains, more than 40 years later, one of the largest unsolved acts of mass poisoning